If you've watched my videos, you know I love fishing in Stardew. I mean, who doesn't, right? And I've had my fair share of fishing in Stardew. I think most of the time being in Stardew has been in fishing minigame from how much fishing I've done in all those playtime hours. So today I'm going to show you a few tricks and tips that I've learned about fishing. Okay, so starting for beginner is the basics of basics. So to cast your fishing rod, hold your fishing rod in your hotbar and select it either by clicking on it or scrolling down to it. Then hold your left mouse button and you will see a green bar filling in. That bar indicates how far you will cast the line for. The longer you hold the mouse button, the further it casts. But there's a limit on how far you can cast them. Once the green bar fills in, it will bounce back and instead decrease. So you have to practice timing them if you want to throw it as far as you can. Now the reason you want to cast it as further as possible is because the deeper the water is, the higher quality the fish can be. How the game determines how deep a body of water is by measuring the distance of that water block to the closest body of land. Let me give you an example. Although this body of water looks deep, like visually, but because it is closer to this part of land, it's going to give you worse quality, though not much worse, fish. So generally, when picking a spot to fish, keep this fact in mind. Now once you casted your line, the next thing to do is wait and wait until the hit noise triggers, which sounds like this. At this time, you have to click to try and catch the fish, entering a fishing minigame window. In this window, you don't have to worry about time, and you can take as long as you want to try and catch this fish, because time is frozen in this window, apart from multiplayer worlds of course, so you don't have to rush yourself. In this minigame, your goal is to keep this fish icon in your green bar to fill up the progress bar on the right side of the interface. To control your green bar, you can click or hold your left mouse button to move the bar up, and release to let the bar drop. Now that the basics are done and dusted, we can move on to the more advanced mechanics of fishing. Now when people talk about their fishing skill, this fishing minigame is usually the thing that they talk about. The main tips that I would tell everyone is that you have to tap the green bar most of the time. So instead of holding and releasing the green bar to make it stay at roughly the same place, it is better to click the button on a beat. This is the best technique to catch the fish when it's not moving or rarely moving or barely moving. And it is generally the idea of fishing minigame. But not many fish are stationary or move slowly. Many fish immediately spring up, and some fish with higher difficulty will pose much of a problem because of how frequent they move. To counteract this movement, you can either study their tendency based on experience, or I would use this tech to predict where the fish is going to go. Let's give you an example. Let's say the fish icon is in the lower bottom part of the fishing bar. This means there's more chance for the fish to move up. And if this happens, I would position this green bar so that I am ready to move my green bar up by putting the fish in the bottom part of my green bar. On the other hand, if the fish is on top of the fishing bar, I would position my green bar so that I'm ready to drop my green bar in case the fish moves down. There are 5 types of fish behavior based on the wiki: mixed, smooth, sinker, floater, and dart. Starting from the easier pattern, in my opinion, is smooth. This is the most basic of basic fish movement, as their movement are more steady. A few fish that has this behavior such as bream, shad, and eel. You just need to practice down the basics. Many fish such as the largemouth, bullhead, red mullet, and many other fish has a tendency to immediately float up right after the minigame starts. So to counteract this, I have a technique called the pre-fire. This means holding your left mouse button when the minigame starts. If the fish continues to float, then good. You have the proper acceleration to catch up to the fish. However, if the fish decided not to move at all, you have a leeway of releasing that button because of how slow the initial acceleration of the bar is. Next technique is pulling up. Just like when landing a plane, you want to slow down your plane right before it hits the ground. Same with this minigame, you need to practice this technique because the green bar will bounce erratically whenever it hits the bottom of the fishing interface. This is very crucial, especially when dealing with harder fishes as they move a lot and will need you to make more movement afterwards. Once you have these techniques down, mixed and dart behavior will stand no chance, as you can easily catch them perfect most of the time. Every expert fisherman needs their appropriate tools. There are many items that you can utilize. The most obvious one are fishing rods. There are 5 fishing rods that are currently in the game in 1.6. The main advantage of better fishing rods is by the ability of attaching bait and tackles. So let's get to it. Baits are mainly used to catch fish faster or getting specific fish with more chance. And tackles have their own advantages. To maximize on quantity, you can use a spinner or a dressed spinner to reduce the maximum wait time for fish after casting your fishing line. For catching harder fish like legendary fishes, the use of trap bobber is very helpful because it minimizes the amount of reduction of progress bar by 33% when the fish isn't in your green bar or when you're not reeling the fish. Cork bobber is usually to catch harder fish perfectly. Treasure hunter is pretty useless as there are better tackles. Lead bobbers aren't very useful in my opinion if you have mastered the pulling up technique that I talked about earlier. But if you are having a hard time with sinker or mixed fish, when they go down quickly and pulling up might be hard for you, then this tackle might be for you. Barb hook is also quite useless in my opinion, because it kind of messes with your control of the green bar, rendering your past experiences useless. And the last 3 is for utility, where curiosity bobber, which increases your chance for rare fish, sonar bobber, to see what fish you are currently catching, and quality bobber, which increases the quality of the fish by 1 level, which means you can catch iridium start fish without needing to catch a perfect fish. Additionally, this also means you can now stack 2 quality bobber and catch iridium quality legendary fishes. There are a few comments on my episode about the level 10 fishing speedrun that I might be able to use the training rod instead of a bamboo rod earlier in the game, because it gives you bigger green bar. I did a rough calculation on this matter and concluded that it is only better to use the training rod if you can't catch a perfect fish more than 50% of the time, because training rod have a limitation on how difficult the fish is. This means you can't catch harder fish, meaning the XP is limited to easier fish, averaging on around 30 base experience per fish. Also adding the fact that you cannot catch a start fish, further reducing the additional XP possible. The only advantage is that you can basically catch all the fish perfectly, multiplying all of them by 2.4 times. With bamboo or other rods, however, you are able to catch start fish, and with those stars available and more difficult fish averaging to around 40 base XP on a spring lake, you can get more XP on average, if you can catch the fish perfectly more than 50% of the time. Finally, my tips for fishing is go and practice. It might be a little hard at the start, but you'll get the hang of it. And even if you're still having a hard time, there's not really anything forcing you to be good at it, as there are many ways to simplify fishing with all the tools available in your arsenal. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know if there's any tips that you'd like to share with the community, and goodbye.